Nanya, you hear me? Nanya, good morning. Good afternoon. Tanani, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I'm not sure. I was delivering a soliloquy about 3 minutes ago for about 3 minutes. I'm not sure if I was going live or not. My screen said I was live, but then I checked the bottom of the screen. It looked like my microphone was muted. So I'm going to begin over. And, typically we start with the music. I don't know if the music came across already. So technology, sometimes it does exactly what we want. Sometimes we get something a little different, but either way, we make it work. I'm Al McFarlane. I'm editor and owner of Insight News and head of McFarlane Media Interest. This program, Conversations with Al McFarlane, happens every day. We do a live webcast daily, bringing people together across various disciplines to discuss issues of importance, our ideas, our attitude, our approach, our focus, our lens on how we have assembled the world. And our intent is to have discussions that reflect how we see ourselves and the world differently, in a way that's positive, productive, and in a way that reflects our right and our responsibility to be healed and whole, to be productive, and to have joy in all that we do. Well, Fridays, we do this in conjunction with our affiliates at the African American Child Wellness Institute under the leadership of our fearless leader, Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya. And what we've been doing for so many months now, I think, is getting members of her counseling and therapist and psychologist team in groups of one or two or more, sometimes with other guests, talking about what's on their mind, generally focusing on the theme of how we negotiate, navigate trauma, the trauma associated with COVID-19. Now that is escalating again. I'm sort of horrified to say, because of the perniciousness of the Delta variant of COVID-19. And of course, for the past year, we in this community and the world have been dealing with the realities revealed in the murder of George Floyd, the trauma of racism and racial oppression, and what that means to us both locally and globally, and the reckoning that is occurring around the country and around the world, where people look at things differently. They don't accept carte blanche what officials or authorities or institutions say, but we raise our voices, questioning everything in a way that's appropriate and that reflects our right to know and our right to be. Well, Tananya Hurd is here today. Tananya, good to see you again, and thank you for being here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. As always, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be with you. And, I like to just talk about what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and I want to do that a little bit more and then turn it over to you. And you and I can take this conversation where we want it to go, and other people can join us. Let me tell people that are listening on or watching on YouTube or Facebook, we want you to be involved in the conversation as well. So you're welcome to send us a question or a comment through the chat, not through the chat, but through the comments. But if you want to join the conversation, send me an email or a note, and I can try to send you a live link and bring you into the conversation as well. I was in a meeting yesterday, Tananya, with the monthly meeting of the Hawthorne Neighborhood Council, Hawthorne in North Minneapolis. I've been a part of that for a long time. You might know Diana Hawkins, just a wonderful and awesome community leader. And that meeting every month begins with a Minneapolis Health Department COVID update. And the presenter normally is a young woman from the health department named, her last name is Posao Brandao. She's Portuguese, I think, or Brazilian. The wonderful last name, but she gave a wonderful but alarming and startling presentation. And what she said was that the Delta virus is showing up in a way that is almost unimaginable. And in the past 2 weeks, the numbers have skyrocketed here in Minneapolis. She showed charts, and the chart reflects almost like a V, where the whole city, the county, had experienced a super and appropriate downward trend in COVID infections because people were, in general, getting the vaccinations and getting tested. But all of a sudden, in the past 2 weeks, the new threat of the Delta variant of the strain is showing up like gangbusters. And after she made her presentation, we said, "Look, you know, uh, I, I, I'm wondering if I'm overreacting. But what you told me is frightening because the chart you just showed me shows that the Black community here in North Minneapolis, probably in South Minneapolis, is once again at highest risk. Our numbers are higher. And I'm not sure that the numbers we're getting are accurate because a lot of people are not being tested still. But of those that are being tested, the number that are being most impacted by the Delta virus seem to be Black people and brown people. So that's frightening. And I'm hoping that we can talk about how we rally our community to deal with this new and returning uh, reality that we have to pay attention to and have to take action on. Dr. B, I see you there. Good to see you. But
You
let
too,
me
brother.
pass the talking stick to Tananya Hurd first, and then Dr. B will pass it to you.
Yes, actually, those numbers are very startling. I had the honor to be part of a meeting with our second gentleman, Mr. Emhoff, as well as Dr. Fauci, just yesterday. And we heard the numbers just in the United States, and it was startling. The Delta variant, as Dr. Fauci reported, it made up less than 1% of the uptick just a week ago. And as of yesterday, it made up 93% of cases. And of course, people of color are overrepresented in that because of health disparities, of course, because of um, not getting the vaccine, and then really not being represented as part of surveys that are going on, as part of outreach and different things that are happening here. So we continue to be the most overrepresented community in the world with the uptick in cases and getting this Delta variant. It is very dangerous. And I'll pass the talking stick to Dr. B.
Thank you so much, Tananye, and it's good to be with you, brother Al.
Mhm.
Oh, we're not just losing brothers and sisters; we are losing generations. The Yoruba have a proverb that says, "When you lose an elder, a library burns." So we have many people who have lived through all sorts of epidemics, racism, Jim Crow, and Jim Crow on steroids, which is now. We've got so many parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles and brothers and sisters who still refuse to take those vaccinations, but they don't realize that they are carrying the history, they're carrying the library of our resilience on their shoulders. And it's a risk they cannot afford to take. That's where the real problem lies, is that we, as descendants of slaves, we didn't own our bodies. And today in my staff meeting, we spent quite amount of time talking about how Black folks don't own our bodies. And if you
Mhm.
never realize that your body is yours and you have to take care of it, and nobody's going to fix it for you or take care of it for you, that you own it. Although they say, in sports and all those things, you're owned by a team, all these all these multifaceted levels of ownership of the regular person. When COVID hit, you were owned by your employer, especially if you're one of the lower page weight, the dishwasher, the cook, the janitor. You were owned by your employer. You couldn't very easily not go to work. You couldn't phone your work in by telecommuting. So we are still owned by these systems that have benefited from our lives for generations, for centuries. And it's time for us to take control and take our bodies back and remember that our bodies are not just for us. We are the libraries that our children and our grandchildren need for survival. So when I think about what's happening right now, the Delta variant, the Lambda variant, the Delta new transfiguration of a new version of Delta, all of this is happening, and Black folks are still in this space. I ain't gonna let them white folks kill me by taking that shot. I might wake up one day and I can't have babies, so I may wake up one day and I'm dead. You know how we do. So we
Mhm.
have these beliefs that holds us hostage to systems that have to be more equitable. There's more accountability. There's more equitable access to things, and we still don't know how to act. It just makes me think of the slaves who, when they found out we were free, they said, "I ain't going nowhere for somebody to come after me and kill me. Master been
Mhm.
good to me." Some of us are still stuck there.
Mm.
And with that, I pass the stick on to my brother Al.
Well, I'm going to try to share, if you all don't mind, some of this presentation yesterday. I have looked at our daily newsletter and looked at and queued it up to where the presentation was. I'm not sure I'm going to be successful. And if I don't succeed in sharing it the right way, I'll just come back. But like I said, I was startled by what I was hearing. So let me see if I do the share screen now. And let's see, I'll say share screen. That's number one. And are you seeing the screen I'm sharing there?
Not yet, brother.
Okay, let me put share audio as well. But just bear with me for a second. And let's see if it comes up. Um, are you hearing it? Are you hearing that or seeing it?
We're not seeing it, and it's very low in terms of
Okay.
being able to hear it.
Okay, let me try.
We can hear it much better now.
Okay. Uh oh.
Mm. We can see it now. Now we can't see it.
Okay, let me come back.
Really, this is a result of the rapid increased amount of cases with Delta variant, and you can see that just here in the national picture. The Delta variant is this orange line, and you can see this is
You see that now?
Yeah.
ending.
Can you do full screen?
Yeah. Let me try it.
You can barely see, there's, no, hardly any cases attributed to the Delta variant.
No.
At the beginning of June, it was about 2% of cases in the United States that were attributed to the Delta variant. And this is the week ending July 17th, that's at 83%. And I think the week ending last 7/31, that number has gone up to something like 89%. So exponential growth in cases attributed to the Delta variant. This variant is more transmissible and has higher viral loads. So when you're infected, you produce more virus, which makes it more likely that you are going to transmit. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is while the vaccine protects individuals from severe disease and from hospitalization, unfortunately, fully vaccinated individuals appear to be able to transmit the
Oops. I'll come back.
the infection, in the same way that unvaccinated individuals. So even if you're fully vaccinated, if you are infected with the Delta variant, the viral loads that you develop in your body are such that you are equally capable of transmission, which was not what we saw with the Alpha variant, or the one that was more prevalent earlier this year, and there was the one that was originally identified in the UK. So that is the difference that we're seeing. And so while breakthrough cases or cases among that fully vaccinated people are still rare, that's not a consolation if you are one of those breakthrough cases. It's not a consolation, but it is still less than 1% of, in Minnesota, less than 1% of all of those that are fully vaccinated that are testing positive. It's a little different in different states, and the more transmission you have, the more likely you are to see breakthrough cases. And as well, the higher number of people you have vaccinated, the more you're going to see possibly some breakthrough cases, because if the majority of your population is vaccinated, you're going to see those. But so I wanted to just also show you the distribution for Minneapolis. You can see that the numbers, the proportion is the same. Our number of specimens that have been sequenced over the last couple of months has gone down because of as testing has gone down. But I wanted to show you this as well. Our picture in Minneapolis and in Minnesota is very similar to what we're seeing with the national picture as well. And then the only other piece is, I'm going to keep preaching, please get vaccinated. Yes, we're seeing cases among those that are fully vaccinated, but the likelihood of hospitalization is 8 or 9 times greater for those that are not fully vaccinated. The likelihood of having symptoms is also greater for those that have not been fully vaccinated, and as well as the likelihood of death. So, COVID is still very much present. Unfortunately, with the advent of the Delta variant, it is very much back in the conversation, and so much so that CDC has changed some of their recommendations, and as well as, we have made some additional recommendations here in the city. And I see looks like there might be a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm happy to take any questions.
Are you all able to hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, this is yesterday or so. We'll see what happens.
Some additional information, but I'm happy to take any questions. The new recommendation from CDC is that if you are going indoors, even if fully vaccinated, wear a mask in areas of high of substantial transmission. Minneapolis is very much in the substantial transmission, an area of substantial transmission, as is Hennepin County and most of the Twin Cities.
In a minute, it'll get to a question that I asked of her and that I want to share with you. And there'll be other questions asked by members, friends of us in the community that were in the Hawthorne huddle yesterday, Thursday.
We are also in the city, the city and the county and the park board and a few and other institutions have now mandated that in city-owned buildings, it will be required to have a mask when you enter, regardless of vaccination status, and all city employees will be required to wear masks when they are out and going into businesses. So, for example, our health inspectors will be required to mask as they are going into establishments. Masking protects you and protects others, so it's something that we do for ourselves, but we also do for others. You could be asymptomatic, and and if you are infected, you could still infect someone else that may not be as may have other issues. If you have family members that are immunocompromised, that is something that you're doing for them as well. Yeah, and then just we're starting. Hopefully, we can get this under control, because we all we know that school is coming. School is about to start in about a month, and we all want our kids back in school and safely. And unfortunately, those 12 and under cannot be vaccinated. And we are needing additional safety data for that group in terms of clinical trials, and about 6 months worth of that. And unfortunately, most of those trials started in May or June, so we're still a ways out from having that full 6 months of data, which means that we're still a ways out from having an approved vaccine for those kiddos 11 and under. And so that's a large swath of the population that cannot, does not even have a chance to get vaccinated. They're not eligible for it. So again, happy to answer questions. And yes, Andrew, free testing is still available. So the vault testing is still available at the airport, and you can go. You can still order a test online from the Minnesota Department of Health. I think there are still, even if you go into a clinic, if you're just doing a regular test, not a rapid test, most of those tests should still be free as well. But there's definitely still free testing sites that are available. How is the increase among the Black community? So, this increase has happened just recently, in the last 2 weeks. And so I know that the state, MDH has been doing their press briefings again, which they hadn't been doing them regularly for a couple of months. We have, we have our data on our website. We have been communicating with partners that work with those communities. And, part of me being here and also taking opportunities to talk with community organizations is part of it. And I think the other way it's hopefully being communicated overall is through news media and, but in terms of specifically events where this is being communicated with the African American community, I'm not sure if there are any happening.
She's answering a question that Sean Lewis posed about what are you doing? How are you reaching Black people with this urgency? And that was in the chat. Any other questions? Can you email that presentation to me, Louisa?
Sure, if you put your email in the...
And her name is Louisa Pessoa Brandao. Following up on Sean's question, do you have particular information about impact on Black and brown people in Hawthorne, Jordan, New York?
So I looked at the number of cases in Hawthorne, and those have actually not gone up at all. They've been very stable. It's been about 3 cases per week, 3-4 I can look at, a larger, looking at maybe the near north neighborhood, the sort of a community of near north, and combining a series of neighborhoods and providing you some additional information on that. It's harder, to look at patterns when the numbers are much smaller. It becomes a little more challenging to make any specific, to distinguish patterns, because one or two case change can look very different. So, but I can send you some information.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, great report. It's alarming. I mean, as you are describing, the details, I get a sense of alarm, and or maybe it's overreacting, or we moving into another state of emergency, particularly for the Black and Brown community. Am I overreacting, or?
Well, I think that the CDC has described this as at this point, a pandemic of the unvaccinated and people that have not. And so I think, for me, as someone that has been working in this for the last year and a half, I feel discouraged, and I am worried, because we've seen impact both in both the Black, Brown, and Black community, as well as the Latinx community. Disproportionate impact. The rates are 6, 7, 8 times higher than among the white community, and we've been trying to get this message out. I think there's been so much damage done with misinformation this past year, around what COVID is and isn't, around the benefits of vaccination. And I understand that our fears of vaccination, given historical trauma. But we were so, and I can speak for me and my team, we were so excited when the vaccination began, because we thought, here it is, we can get a handle on this. And this it's a very smart and adaptable virus. And my concern is that all of the work that went into getting these vaccinations, if we can't get enough people to get vaccinated, it will just give the possibility that there will be another variant that will be even more capable of escaping the benefit of the vaccine. And so for me, as a public health person, I don't think that you can overreact. I think, the message of vaccinate, 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 and protect, wear masks, continue to be vigilant is important. We are not obligated to step up into their part.
I'm going to stop that there and come back to our conversation. But I thought that was just a great presentation. And for me, it does sound an alarm. And it says that we have to pay particular attention to where we are and the potential impact of the Delta variant. Dr. Bean, I'll pass it back to you just to react and to build on that. I want to see how I can get out of screen sharing while you take the stick and talk. Yeah, I can't hear you. I'm not hearing you.
I just realized I was muted. So
Okay.
yeah. What I'd like to say is that as I listened to the woman talking, was she from Minnesota Department of Health, or?
No, she's from the Minneapolis Department of Health. Her name is Louisa Prasoa Bandal, and she comes to the Hawthorne Huddle once a month. And I guess what she does is go to different agencies and organizations around Minneapolis, speaking on behalf of the Minneapolis Health Department. But I took what she was saying with a high degree of alarm, so much so that after the show, I called up her boss, the commissioner of public health for the city of Minneapolis, and number one, spoke with gratitude about the clarity and the gravity of the presentation that Louisa had made yesterday to the Hawthorne community in the Hawthorne Huddle. But I also mentioned that she'd been there regularly and was providing a great service and updating that team about the impact of COVID right in Hawthorne and near North and in Minneapolis, being very specific. But that the presentation yesterday about the emergence in the past 14 days, in the past 2 weeks, of the Delta variant, and how the chart is already demonstrating more aggressive, more virulent impact on black and brown. That I, am alarmed, and I ask, "Am I being, too alarmed?" And she said, I heard her to say, "No, she's concerned as well." So that's
Yep.
what I want us to deal with. This thing is really, really, we're probably like we were in May or April last year,
That's
where
right.
people didn't know, they were not sure, maybe it's going to happen. But we know what happened with the COVID pandemic, how many lives were lost nationally and in the state. But now, as they're saying, the new trend is that it's a pandemic among the unvaccinated, but
Mm-hmm.
that has potential to impact others. And we know that among the vaccinated are all of our children who are under 12, right?
That's right.
And so if this scourge is unchecked, I mean, can you envision something that comes through and destroys a whole generation
Yeah.
of people that are under 12 years old?
Yeah.
What impact would that have on our families, our community, and on our future? And even if, as they were saying, this disease has not affected young people as it had affected people that were compromised or elderly, but they're discovering now that this variant is putting young people in the
Yes.
hospital
Yep.
and on ventilators, and it's able to morph rapidly to get around defenses that bodies are bringing. And so that's the reason for my concern. And so my question is, how do we ramp up our engagement? And at the end of the day, Dr. B, it's how do we, and this is what my message was to Gretchen Musicant, the commissioner, we need to more fully redouble, treble the engagement of voices and resources in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be up to us to activate, motivate ourselves, to educate ourselves, that but this will not come from outside of our community. And therefore there must be resources invested in organizations like African American Child Wellness Institute to do the work to scale it up,
Yep.
because we're fighting in an arena that has where the adversary has no boundaries
Mm-hmm.
except for uh, uh, knowledge. And
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is the boundary, is the antidote. But the
That's
lack
right.
of knowledge and the lack of access to information means that we're going to lose and they're going to win, the adversary, meaning COVID-19.
That's right.
So that's my thinking. I'm going to pass the stick to you, Dr. B, to make sense of what I'm saying here.
Well, it is making a lot of sense, and it is a fight. And the problem is that if we don't have knowledge, and if even if we get the knowledge, we don't act, then that's not going to help our children. It's not going to preserve our lives. Our libraries are going to burn, and our children won't have mothers and fathers. And then the disease will get to them because of adult behaviors, because adults failed to protect our own children by protecting ourselves. You know, they say when you're in an airplane, everybody knows when you get in a plane,
Mm-hmm.
first thing they say is if the cabin loses pressure and the mask falls down, put the mask on yourself first and then assist others. You can't be trying to assist a child and you're not breathing yourself because you're going to fall down in the act of trying to get their oxygen to them.
Right.
So it's important for us to understand we are the oxygen holders as adults. When we get our vaccines, we get our children's vaccinated from who are eligible from 12 on up, then we are lessening the probability that our 6-year-old will get it. And because of the variant, because of it, it has, like you said, that ability to morph, and it's getting stronger and stronger in its ability to circumvent adults being inoculated to getting to our children. And we are the first and last line of defense. Our knowledge and our ability to act. So one of the things I'm thinking, as I was hearing it, I was thinking, oh my Lord, here we are again.
Mm-hmm.
If it was an enemy that we could see,
Mm-hmm.
if they were somebody walking down the street carrying baseball bats, looking for babies, I can't imagine that our black communities say, oh, well, I'm going to let my babies play in the front yard because that person with the baseball bat can come and beat them up. We wouldn't do that. We create our own wall of support and our own wall of knowledge, our own wall of intervention to shield our community and our babies from such a fate. I want us to think of it like that. And that's why, when we talk about Project Marua,
Mm-hmm.
Marua meaning respect for myself and others in my home and my community. And what do you do to translate that respect? Well, you create ways that everyone around you gets vaccinated. You create ways where every child, every teacher, everybody knows the parameters of what they need to do. Be clean with the kids. Not let them, because the first grader will do this and then go
Yep.
hug you and kiss you.
Yep.
Teaching those boundaries about safety and making sure that we do what we can to keep them safe. And so I almost think we almost need to have like I hate to break it down because people say this about it, but we need a revolution
Mm-hmm.
up in here, a revolution to understand we have a right to live. We have a right to wellness. We have that right. Our children has that right. Our community have that right. And not just by talking, but by our action. If the action is get a shot, and that's all it takes for me killing my baby, what parent won't think about it like that? If it takes you getting a shot, are you too afraid of dying of COVID? I mean, of the shot versus being afraid of COVID that
Mm-hmm.
definitely will kill you or likely to? We got to ask ourselves, we got to put on our big girl underwear, our big boy underwear, and face the fact that it's on us.
So,
Nobody's going to rescue us but us.
so Dr. B, in terms of enabling us to rescue ourselves, we watch the federal government say we're going to put trillions into appropriately fighting COVID-19 and also providing recovery to communities that have been shut down by both COVID-19
Mm-hmm.
and by the civil unrest that followed the execution of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. And so then the state has received a lot of money. The city has received a lot of money. Here's what I think. I think that uh, it would make all the sense in the world for the state of Minnesota, for Hennepin County, for Minneapolis to launch, to enable organizations like African American Child Wellness Institute, like the Urban League, like His Works United, like Phyllis Wheatley, to hire and deploy hundreds of people in jobs.
That's
And maybe
right.
it's a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract. Well, what if there were 5,000 people employed to save the lives of 300,000 people, Black, Brown, Asian, that are at risk?
That's right.
Certainly the 100,000, 150,000 African and African Americans at risk.
That's
We
right.
know that this population is at risk, and part of the risk is lack of information or lack of confidence in information or a
Mm-hmm.
dual mind when we're being confronted or told, because we have this historical memory that makes us hesitant. We also
Mm-hmm.
know that the risk is real. And so it puts us in a point of indecision, and that indecision can kill us, right? So
Right.
how do we arm our communities with people that have the job and the training and the knowledge and the supervision to go door to door
That's right.
to every house, every apartment in our community and simply have conversations, but
That's
be
right.
paid to do that
Yep.
because it's money well spent, and it also generates an economic activity,
That's right.
which brings paychecks to homes to pay rent, to pay car notes, to send kids to school, uh, and to put food on the table. So how do
Mm-hmm.
you look at? I've always said uh, part of what we have to do is talk about how we monetize the solution side. It is monetized presently,
Mm-hmm.
and the criticism you've heard me say is we get the misery, they get the money.
There you go. Teach now.
We get the misery. Our our discomfort, our dis-ease is a marvelous thing for them to look at and study
That's right.
and to write about, and then to blame us for
Mm-hmm.
not being able to solve the problem,
Mm-hmm.
while the tools for solving the problem are consistently withheld, or the strategies we advanced consistently ignored, or the
That's right.
capabilities we bring to the struggle consistently um, um, ignored again, but
Mm-hmm.
watched, replicated, and then brought back to us
Mm-hmm.
where somebody is making money. It reminds me of this. Bobby and I were sitting in a veranda. I think we were in Montego Bay in Jamaica, and beautiful day. The ocean was over there, the palm trees were over here, hotel, restaurant, and back. It was just an idyllic, paradise situation. And we wanted some, famous, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful, aromatic Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. We ordered the coffee. They brought it out, beautiful glassware cups, and we got it. So we wanted to sweeten it, and so we got the sugar packet, and I think it was dumb. So I'm looking, the ocean's here, but over there is a cane field,
Mm-hmm.
and I see acres and acres of sugar cane.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica and the Caribbean grow sugar cane, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
look at the packet that I was going to use to put the sugar in my coffee, and it said Domino's or somebody made in Louisiana or Arkansas
What?
or Georgia.
Wow.
So how does this work? I'm sitting in Jamaica drinking Jamaican coffee, but the sweetener for the coffee, I'm looking at the cane, and it's the same cane, but it's being produced, taken to America, refined, and brought back there. So I'm buying a solution that I had that was on land that I used to own, perhaps, but I'm being marketed to. So that's a kind of
Wow.
an analogy that I use all the time. We
Wow.
have all these challenges in our community. We're being encouraged to look at them simply as intractable uh, and inevitable disparities, to basically say, oh, that's the way it is, that's the way of the world, or that it's our fault that we simply haven't been educated enough, or we're not smart enough, or we have bad behaviors or routines and systems and traditions that keep us locked into bad health, and bad decisions. But experts outside come with pieces of solution, packets of sugar, right? That they've gotten from watching us when we could go to the field and get our own sugar and sweeten our own coffee, and then they prevent us from uh, what you said, cultivating our own solution, our own sugar,
Yeah.
and require us to buy the sugar from them.
That's you just woo. That's deep.
Isn't that amazing? So, how do
Mm-mm-mm.
you apply that to the situation of our health? Minneapolis, North Minneapolis in particular, ground zero for all the health, education, wealth disparities. I keep saying, Dr. B, that at some point in time, we have to sort of change the narrative and not and discontinue talking about the lack, and accepting this definition of what we lack in our lives, but rather look at everything as both a challenge and an opportunity. Look at it as a solution, looking for a problem, and we are
Mm-hmm.
the solution owners. That we are the
Mm-hmm.
solution. Not only are we the problem, because they wanted us to sort of see ourselves only as half of our existence, and that's the problem side, but not see ourselves as a solution to the problems that we're also presenting. So I
Mm-hmm.
could go on and on, but what do you think? That's my thoughts.
You know what you talked about going to door. I was making a joke yesterday at a meeting where there's this place in rural Minnesota where there's a healing space. It's called Wellness in the Woods, and the people who are running Wellness in the Woods, they are doing the chats and the suicide prevention hotlines, and they're just talking about their rural woods and to find well. I said instead of wellness in the woods, we need wellness in the hoods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what we need is, one of my fantasies has always been to have troops, to
Mm-hmm.
have our own community warriors
Mm-hmm.
go block by block, canvassing our neighborhood, giving them information and access. And what I think about in terms of that information and access is that we don't have it now because they expect us to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the people who have to go to work to get every single dollar. All of us are wage earners. Most
Mm-hmm.
of us are not on quote unquote salaries, and you
Right.
can come and go like you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to give up one part of your survival to fight for another part of your survival. And I think that the inequitable distribution of income, wealth, support is clearly just overwhelming in our community. A few people get a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
and they hoard it or debit out in pennies and nickels.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of us have to continually fight, beg, scrounge, volunteer extra. We do a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've even thought about it, not just in terms of this, which is, I think, a larger picture, but I've thought about it in terms of child welfare and
Mm-hmm.
people taking our babies. When
Mm-hmm.
there's a law called a DOPA, Delegation of Parental Authority, that Black folks can fill out, and they do it in Minnetonka. Black folks can fill it out, and their children never go to child welfare. Even if they try to take your children, they know where to take them, not into the system. So it's stuff that we got to do. And I think that inequitable distribution of wealth and money and resources is
Mm-hmm.
core, key
Mm-hmm.
to that problem. Because we could easily go, just like they have North Side Achievement Zones, we could have North Side Resilience Zones
Mm-hmm.
so that we could live
Yep.
and not just survive, but thrive. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm going to pass it to Sister Tananya because she's one of the Marua parents and she's taking that spirit wherever she goes. So I'm passing you the stick, sister.
Thank you, Dr. B. Yes, I totally agree on all points. I mean, we are here in a battle to literally, I know I have a 5-year-old who can't be vaccinated. So when I'm not working, as you said, this is what I'm volunteering to do in different spaces to bring awareness. And I love what you said about the Northside Resilience Zone, because that made me think about also how when we do get this funding, there are certain people that get the funding, certain organizations, and like you said, they're dealing them out. But then it's to cover this space or this side, and it's never to as an umbrella over all of us. And that is what is so nerve-wracking to me, because when you do find some of these resources, it's, oh, well, you have to live here and here, you have to live here, and we can't do that anymore. I mean, I just don't think that that's the way to do this. Everything that we need, that we are doing, every sacrifice that we're making needs to be under the umbrella of all of us, young people, old people, suburbans, Minneapolis, St. Paul, not, one geographic area. And that's a lot of what I see when we do get these dollars. It's for one geographical area, maybe 2 geographical areas. We need money now, and we need it for everyone, for all people of color. And I'll pass it to you, Al.
Well, I simply enjoyed that we're having this conversation, and I want to invite people that capture this on Facebook or join us by Facebook or YouTube to get in the conversation. I want to start a discussion that's public, and I think we have to begin to feel comfortable talking about economics, about the business of our health. I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago. I mentioned this last week, where we passed the talking stick around, where we ask each of the participants to talk about this idea I started with saying, when I was a kid, my grandma would say, boy, you better mind your business, right? And out of that, I came up with the idea. She said that our family was in a church business. My grandfather was a pastor, but she called it a business. He called it a calling, but she was the rock of the family, and she also called it the family business, right? And I took away from that, and I've said this often, that God's business is the biggest business on the planet, and it's a business. So how do we mind our business? Our health probably can be and should be one of the biggest businesses on the planet. It is a business for a lot of people. We simply get told that we should be the patients and not the doctors, right? Not the we're the supplicants, but not the providers
That's right.
of the solution. So I think that what I said in this group, let us start talking about uh, how can we meditate on this idea of my health being my business. What
Mm-hmm.
happens to me is my business, not in a way that's exclusive,
Mm-hmm.
about don't bother me because it's my business. No, in a way that says I have an obligation and I have a duty and I have a right to be here and I have a right
Mm-hmm.
to understand the financial apparatus that underpins all these decisions that
That's right.
affect my mental and physical well-being,
That's
my
right.
prosperity and my future. That looking at it from how the systems impacted the history, the past 300, 400 years,
Mm-hmm.
how we have been structurally, right, robbed, disadvantaged, but now we see and now
Mm-hmm.
we know. And what
Mm-hmm.
will we do differently? What we demand of ourselves first and foremost. And the
Mm-hmm.
demand that we must make on ourselves, I believe, Dr. B and Tananye, is that as the song goes, we sick and tired of being sick and tired
That's
and
right.
ain't gonna do this no more,
Mm-hmm.
And so we're demanding, and we have to speak into existence a new awareness, a new understanding, and understanding that reflects and reveals our own um, um, uh, sovereignty. That might not be the right word, but
It is.
our own duty and our own. Well, you get the feeling. How do
Mm-hmm.
we step up? How do we step up? So I'm going to pass the talking stick. We're out of time already. Boy, this
Ooh,
went too quickly,
it
But we
is.
got another minute or so. So, Dr. B, let me have you summarize. We got 4 minutes.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll take one or two of them and give it back to you on the end. But I want to say that this whole discussion has been about thriving.
mhm.
It's been about using our indigenous ways of healing and recognizing their power, their right to be here, the right to be well. This is what we are talking about. And it will take a revolution within ourselves and within our community to recognize that we can take those resources that some people are doing, like Carter G. Woodson say, white folks do the operating. When they say cooperate, white folks do the operating, and black folks do the coin. Well, we need to start doing the operating and
Mhm.
making those decisions
That's right.
about our own health. So now is our time. Every single person in our wellness wheel, we call this word Nia. Nia means
Purpose.
purpose, and
Purpose.
purpose is your calling.
Hmm.
And all of us have different value gifts, but one gift that we share is our lives, our very lives. So let's step up for that united calling to save our lives and to move us from a place of just surviving to a place of thriving that we are divinely appointed to receive. That's all I got to say about it. We are divinely appointed for wellness, shared power, marua, respect, and wholeness, and abundant life. It's been promised to us. We got to figure out ways to claim it.
I want to close with acknowledging that Tananye, all around you on my screen are people that I believe are holding you up right now. And one of these days, I'll have you go through and take some of those photographs. But I feel the energy and the spirit of those people right to your left and to your back and back of you on the photographs on the wall. And so at some point in time, we have to always remember that these presences exist with us all day, every day. And we learn to trust and rely and engage the wisdom, the strength, the stories that they told to get us to where we are right now. With that, I'm going to close out and say thank you, Dr. B. Thank you to Nanya. Thank you to the elders, to the ancestors, and to all of our families. I thank the future. And in doing that, I thank the power of now. This is the gateway. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next Friday. All right, bye-bye.
Oh, Queen Justice, where are you? Did they beat you up or no? Lock you on the ground, take the crown away from you?
Oh, Lady Liberty, red, white, and blue. Did they take your dignity with their bigotry? Teach you that you're born to lose.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough
of all the rules you break.
We've had enough
of all the money you make.
We've had enough.
No more life gets taken.
We've had enough.
This is a proclamation.
It's been 400 years and we're 400 late. Together we stand from state to state. Going back in time won't make America great. We need justice now, people won't wait.
Action, no more distraction. Every step we take, we gain traction. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all. United we stand, divided we fall. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough.
We've had enough
of all the rules you were breaking.
We had enough
of all the money you were making.
We had enough.
No more life gets taken.
We had enough.
This is a proclamation.
Free or guilty,
It's gonna get filthy.
you better believe. Just roll up your sleeves.
It's gonna get rough. It's gonna be tough.
We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough
Of all the rules you're breaking.
We've had enough.
All the money you're making.
We've had enough.
No more life gets taken.
We've had enough.
This is the proclamation.
We've had enough.
Trayvon Martin and Tommy Rice.
We've had enough.
Michael Brown and Eric gonna pay the price.
We've had enough.
Philando, Breonna, George Floyd.
What? We've had enough.
So many gone, how can we fill the void?
How can we feel?
We had enough. John Crawford, I know you've heard.
We've had enough.
Sandra Bland, come on and take a stand.
We've had enough.
Sean Bell,
Sean Bell.
what the hell?
We've had enough.
Freddie Gray, did you hear what I said?
We've had enough.
This is a proclamation.